want to share with you 5 tips on how you can practice your scales so that you can gain more musical freedom on your fretboard, be more expressive, be more musical, and enhance all your aspects of your musicality. My name is Matt Friedland. I'm a professional music teacher, and I'm going to give you 5 tips here. So the first one is this concept called sequencing, which I learned very early on in my guitar playing. And what it is basically it's taking a pattern and applying that through a scale. And so if I'm thinking about C major, let's say if I'm just playing just a C major scale in 1 octave, the idea with a sequencing pattern is that you take a certain series of notes and repeat it through the scale. So one common example is you play 4 notes up. So if I start on C, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, C, D, E, F. And then you start on the next note of the scale, which is a D, and you play 4 notes up from there. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, D, E, E, D, E, F, G. You start on the 3rd note of the scale and go 4 notes up from there. So we get E, F, G, A. 4th note of the scale is an F. So we play 4 notes up from F. And then we go 4 notes up from G and so on. So we get this kind of melodic kind of pattern that sounds something like this. And we can kind of break off of it, and we can descend it. So if we go backwards 4 notes, 4 notes down from C, then B is the next note. 4 notes down from B, A is the next note. And 4 notes down. So that's descending in a 4-note pattern. So the sequencing pattern, there's many of them. In this case, I'm going 4 notes up, next note of the scale, 4 notes up, next note of the scale, and so on. 4 notes up, next note of the scale, next note of the scale, and so on. And we can also go backwards, 4 notes back. And so on, as long as you want to play that. You can continue it through a scale pattern. You might be able to move it kind of more horizontally across. You go to the next note. Again. So there I was just moving it across 2 strings. So the next way that you can practice your scales is you can think about trying to be more dynamic. So maybe you're just playing your scales up and down to map the fretboard out, and instead of playing them all at the same volume, maybe you vary your volume or your dynamic. And what that does is it makes you more interesting to listen to. So if I play quiet, maybe get louder. Quiet. Louder. Quiet. And everything in between. And you can apply that to different patterns within the scale of however you want to play it. And the idea is it makes your playing more interesting. So if I vary my dynamic, well, first, if I play everything the same volume level, here's what that may sound like. Okay, not bad, but then if I vary the dynamic, The third way to practice your scales is to apply rhythms to them and use a metronome. so that you can really tighten up your timing. And by applying rhythms, it'll generate a lot of different melodies and vocabulary. So what I like to do is I'll take rhythms out of a rhythm book or a drum book, for example, like the Ted Reed Progressive Steps to Syncopation book, which is really a drum book, which I've studied drums out of, but I'll apply it to scales and it'll generate melodies. So let's say I have a rhythm like 1 E and a 2, a E, a 4, da ka da ka da da ba ba da, 1 E and a 2, a E, a 4. And I'll bring up a drum track or a metronome, and I'll use that rhythm, da ka da ka da, ba 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 da, da ka da ka da, da da ba da. And I'll just run it from every note of the scale to get an idea, and I can tweak it and vary it. But it's a starting point. So if it brings me up to the D here. 1 E and a 2, a E, a 4. So we get da ka da ka da, ba 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 da. And then that'll give me a sense of where I'm going with the scale based off of the rhythm. It also really enhanced my technique so I can execute what I want when I'm going to improvise. And then what I'll do is I'll start it from the next note of the scale, for example. So I'll start from the D. It brings me up to the E's. You get 1 E and a 2. Then I'd start it from the next note of the scale, it'd be an E. So one way that I found really enhanced my technique and my phrasing musically when I improvise is by taking a rhythm from like a rhythm book or something like that, or just a rhythm that you like, and playing it off of each note within a scale and just kind of listening to how that affects the scale. And I can always change something along the way if I want to change the note sequence. But usually I keep it pretty simple to start with and just kind of observe what's happening, and then I modify from there. And then like another approach would be I'll just take the rhythm and just improvise just using that fixed rhythm throughout a scale. So if it's that rhythm, 1 E and a 2, a E, a 4, I'll stick with that through the scale and see if I can make something out of it. So we get So it's kind of a little bit of a game with it to play a fixed rhythm and move it through the scale. You can kind of go anywhere. You can set parameters. There's a lot of ways you can go about it. But I felt like it helped my phrasing and my technique. So using rhythms and using a timekeeping thing, a drum track or a metronome is a really effective way to enhance your musicality with scales. Okay, the next thing that you can apply to your scales to make them more musical is articulations. So you could pick every note, but you can add in hammer-ons and pull-offs. So let's say you take a 3-note pattern like C, D, E. But let's say I add in a hammer-on from the D to the E. So that kind of makes it a little bit maybe more vocal-like, more musical. Or if I come backwards, I'm going to pull off from the E to the D. Maybe a Grace hammer-on. Then we can add in other articulations like a slide. I'm going D, hammer-on, as an articulation, sliding into that D, and adding back on the C. Instead of just picking every note, it sounds kind of elementary. But if I add an articulation, like like a hammer-on or a slide, now it's got some more vocal quality and it's much more interesting to play and to listen to, and fun at the same time. So we can add in hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides. Right there's, I pulled off and hammered on into the A here. If I pick it, sure, that's fine. But adding a hammer-on pull-off starts to make it a little bit more voice-like, a little bit more connected and not so mechanical. And of course, we could do bends, right? So if I'm doing, like, let's say a half-step bend, that's F, E, D, back to E, could bend. So I'm going to bend that note. The E bends up to the F. So if I bend to the D. So like bending into notes, like half step to bend the B into the C. Instead of going. So adding in bends in places as well. So articulations are going to make your sound much more musical. Okay, lastly is if you sing the notes that you're playing. Now, when I first was taught to do this, I thought it was kind of weird to like sing and play. I thought it was kind of corny. But the more I saw really good improvisers sing and play, I was like, maybe I'll give this a shot. And the idea is that you get more in tune with the instrument, with what you're hearing and your voice, and connected, so you're not really playing mechanically. You're more connected to what's in your ears and what you want to play and the sound that you want to get out of the instrument. And also it really helps with your phrasing, because when you sing and play, you have to take a breath in between, phrases. And that's what creates good phrases in your music and helps you kind of control the notes in a more command of the notes. And you don't have to be a great singer. You can start very basic, like maybe just singing the first 3 notes of a C major scale. La, really slow, la, 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 la. And maybe just repeating that. La, 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 la. So you really get the sound in your ear and connected to the instrument. So when you play, you're not arriving at a note maybe that you thought was going to sound a certain way but caught you off guard and didn't. And it takes some time, but when I first did this, I was singing notes that weren't really what I was playing. And I was like, oh, I guess I don't really know what it sounds like. So if I'm singing and playing very slow, la, 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 la. Just 4 notes. La, 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 la. And as you get more comfortable with it, then you can start moving it around. So maybe I'll put on a drum track. So I hope you guys found this helpful in terms of getting some ideas to increase your musicality. If you like this video, please like this page here, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if anything based off this that you want me to elaborate more specifically. Happy to do that, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.